I want to get in one more video today. I want to talk about the challenges for foreigners buying land or buying any real estate in Brazil, and then maybe more specifically about the difficulties of buying land in the countryside. There's a number of challenges. There's no shortage of challenges here. The biggest challenge of all is there's no escrow. There's no escrow in Brazil at all. So there's no way to pay. You can't open a personal bank account in Brazil without some kind of one-year visa or more. So it can be a one-year work visa or any type of permanent visa. Then with that, you can open a bank account. You can wire your own money from outside the country to your bank account in Brazil, if you could open one, and then use that money to buy land. Because the way things work now is they show up, it's not escrow, it's you show up at the notary office, here called a cartório, and the buyers and sellers are there, and you sign the contracts, but as the buyer, you're holding on to your signed contract that says, let me think, well, it's really the seller, so the seller's at risk is that they sign all the contracts and transfer title to you, but they don't get paid. Your risk would be that you wired money into their account, but you don't get all the signed contracts showing that you now own the land. That's what escrow is for, but there's no escrow here. So you sit in the notary office, you sign all the contracts, and there's people, and hopefully, I mean, that's another thing is you have to buy from someone who's trustworthy. So you're in this room, you sign all the contracts, and then you call your local bank. You've already filled out the forms for the wire transfer for the exact amount. You've told the bank that you're going to be at the notary office that day, and so they're kind of waiting for your call. And you call them and say, everything's cool, wire the money. Well, within about, they say up to a half hour, but usually within 3 or 4 minutes, the wire is there. So the seller, they're going to be calling their bank and saying, has the money arrived? Has the money arrived? And once the money's arrived, then basically everyone can leave the room. The contracts are passed out, title is transferred, money has been transferred, everything's fine. You have some recourse to the law. You know, if by some reason you paid and didn't get all the documentation that you needed, of course you can enter a judicial process and sue. But anywhere in the world that's a pain. Here it's a pain, and it takes, anything in Brazil takes forever. It could be 10 or 20 years before you get a decision, and by then whatever money you paid has long been spent. They won't give it back to you. You're in a lot of trouble. So that's a problem. Another issue is just you're physically not here. Another, of course, is the language. If you don't speak Portuguese, it's very hard to be out and negotiating either directly with sellers or with the realtors. Finding a trust, as I mentioned, because not everyone's trustworthy. Some people here will try to sell the same piece of land more than once. If the buyer is remote, not even foreigners, but just someone from Sao Paulo. There's a lot of people from Sao Paulo because they have so much more money, make so much more money up there, and it's not a great place to live, so they love Florianopolis and they love this area, so they come down here, and it's very easy for them to buy land, buy apartments and homes for what seems to them not a whole lot of money. And so then they go back to Sao Paulo. If they bought a lot, well, that same seller might even sell the lot to somebody else again and again. So you have to be real careful about that sort of thing. When you get out into the countryside, it becomes an even bigger challenge. Just finding things are more complicated. And if you think about it, if you're in a city and you're going to look at homes or land for sale, there's small lots or a small home or an apartment. You can see 10 in one day with a realtor. You can drive around, they have the keys, they'll let you in. You can see a lot of property in one day. It takes a few minutes to walk through a house, and then you're off to another place. Well, when you're looking at acreage, it might take an hour to 2 hours to drive there. It could take half a day just to walk around and see part of it. And which is also why realtors out here, they charge a higher commission as well. So it takes a lot longer. The accents are harder to understand as well. But you get into more complications. You have problems here where I would say about half of what's for sale or listed for sale is not for sale. And there's a couple reasons why it's not for sale. One of them could simply be that the family, and this is just common in Brazil, whether the countryside or the city, they just want to know what their place is worth. So they put it on the market, they put an asking price out there, and then when people make offers, they don't accept the offers. They just raise the price. They have no interest in selling. Also out here in the countryside, you have a lot of inheritance, land that the parents have passed away, they have multiple children, a single piece of land ends up in the hands of the children, and one or two of them want to sell it and the others don't want to sell it. And quite often, none of them live there. They live in different cities. They're in the cities working. So the siblings might not know that one of their siblings is selling their parents' land. So they're listing it for sale. You can actually negotiate. If you're not careful, you can even make a deposit of 10 or 15% of the value as a down payment that you may never get back. But ultimately, all of those kids have to sign the buy-sell agreement and transfer title to you for you to legally own the land. So you can get really far in the process if you don't check who's on, for example, whose name is on the title document before you get involved in handing them any money. So you have issues with, is the land really for sale? You've got some things being a foreigner as well is, this happened to me. It took me a year and a half to find this property, and I was looking in a lot of different cities as well. And I had a lot of this happening. It's just things just aren't for sale when you think they are. And then you have people raising the prices. If you're a foreigner, that's fairly common too. So, like for example, I was in a realtor's office trying to kind of get an idea of what price to ask for this lot 1 that I'm selling. And they have other lots this size for similar prices, all around 200,000 reais. And there was one I remember that was for 80,000 reais, and I didn't go look at it or anything, but I thought, okay, well, that's, that could be the steal of the century. But I just imagine a foreigner, whether or not they speak Portuguese or not, showing up, because the realtor said, well, they've been trying to sell it for about 5 or 6 months. Again, I've said in another video, things don't sell really fast here, but the prices always go up. People don't reduce the prices. So I could just see a foreigner showing up and the person say, oh, 80,000. Oh no, that was 6 months ago. Today it's 150,000. They would never sell it to a foreigner for what they would sell it to a local Brazilian for, even if the foreigner just had cash and they're ready to give them cash. And I don't know why, it doesn't make any sense, but you see this thing kind of kick in, whether it's greed or just a certain thing where they think of fairness or justice involved, is that foreigners all have enormous sums of money, therefore they need to pay me a lot of money for this land. So for someone who wants to own land in Brazil, I've sold 2 lots and they were both to foreigners. One was a young man from Sweden who bought it without coming here. He's been to Brazil before. He married a Brazilian and they have a child, but he lives in Sweden. And he finally we bought it about a year and a half ago. He was here 2 months ago to see it for the first time, and he loved it. And I can put anyone in touch with him as a reference. And he's a great guy. I hope he built a home and is my neighbor. The other buyers are a family from Australia, but their son, who's also a young man in his early 30s, he was living in Sao Paulo, so he was able to fly down here and have a walk through the lot before they bought it. So anyone's welcome to come here and drive around for a year and a half and learn the language and go through the frustrations of buying land. And it's not all that bad, actually, if you like investing in real estate. But what I'm trying to set up here is for a foreigner who has either been to Brazil or hasn't been to Brazil and wants to kind of lock down an investment. This is such a nice investment. What I told, like the young man from Sweden, he may end up having to live in the Northeast because that's where his Brazilian wife is from and where her family lives. But he has to live in Sweden and work for another 5 to 7 years. So I said, listen, you buy this, it's going to go up in value. It's a great investment. If you end up, you have to buy a home in the northeast of Brazil, just sell this, because now you're in the real, you're in the Brazilian currency, you're in the Brazilian real estate market. So, and you've got a good investment. You can always sell it later and buy an apartment or a house or a piece of land somewhere else in Brazil. But what you want to do is get your money in here. You want to secure the land. And what we did is the contracts we did through FedEx or DHL, I forget, through an international carrier. But he paid the 15% deposit without a contract. So I had met one of his friends. He had seen some of my videos. It's not a problem. And then we worked the contracts out later and the wire transfer later. And it's just more of a matter of trust than it is anything else. I can't offer any more legal security than a Brazilian. So but I've done it twice and it worked out fine. And you can talk to the buyers. Everything worked out fine. So that's a bit about the challenges of, for anyone kind of coming here and wanting to buy any real estate, but particularly in the countryside, is really getting to know, even to understand the features about water and the rivers, and whether you want a river, a water spring, or understanding the nature of the growth and when the electricity is going to come and what it costs to pull electricity to the property and these things. There's a pretty steep learning curve to buying rural property out here on a lot of different fronts, and I've handled that. I'm already over that. It's been 4 years, really. Really, it's been 6 years since I became fascinated with land out in the countryside. 4 years since I bought this place, and I've been living here a year since this house has been finished. So hopefully I covered that and didn't ramble too much. And that's it. There'll probably be some more videos coming. I'm kind of finalizing the videos that'll have more pictures and photos of the actual land. Some of them are already up, but those will be fairly quick to put together. All right. Take care. Oh, and if you want to contact me, go to the brazilforlife.com website, and the contact page. That's the best place to contact me. Just fill in that form. It's just a little email form, and I get those emails once a week when I'm on the island checking the internet. If you leave comments, if you're at YouTube watching this and you leave comments, I may not see them, or it may take a while to see them. And you're just leaving something in the public domain. So contact page at brazilforlife.com. That's it. Okay. Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.